Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name's Joe Kuzma. Right here next to me, to my side, my buddy, my colleague, my pal, my tag team partner, my cohort, my brother from another mother, a man who needs no introduction, because for those of you who know him, well, no introduction is necessary, and for those of you who don't know him, simply no introduction will do. Did I say enough about you? Mr. One, I have to roll out the red carpet. It is Brian E. Roach. Welcome, my friend. I'm finally not by myself anymore.
I'm so happy to be here and for you not to have to be alone.
You look alone in the dark there. For those who aren't watching, he's got the lights off, but there's a good story for this.
Yeah, if I turn the lights on, the air conditioner, the fuse will blow and the AC will go out. So it's, 10,000 degrees like walking on the sun outside. And I don't want the AC off. So
it's weird. It's Satan's bunghole when it comes to the heat index. It cooled off a little bit where I'm at.
Bungholio.
I got one of the Blackstone girls. I bought it to do Steelers tailgating. I actually got it the previous year, a year ago, and then didn't get to use it, obviously, because of the whole COVID pandemic, everything else. So it's great making breakfast and bacon and everything. I got a little bit of a late weekend, like noon or something, start on the breakfast. And I've never done this in my new place, but making the old coffee. I had the coffee going. I had an air fryer going. I was doing like some tater rounds or whatever. And then we love the breakfast food here.
Tots? You're doing the tots?
I've been here before. They're like the tater tots, but they're the crispy rounds. They're like the little the circles, and they crisp up real good. Oh, they're so good for breakfast. And throw the Keurig on too, had the toaster on, and boom, blew a few. And I was like, what the heck just happened? I hadn't done that before. So I guess there's a limit to how many small appliances I could have going. So I had to wait on my sludge. I tried to show the Steelers logo. I don't know why. Apparently they don't. Maybe it's for left-handers, but
I don't know.
The logo, it's here. I always try to do it. You don't ever see the logo. The logo always faces you on these coffee mugs. They don't,
because it's important that you know.
They don't think about the entertainment aspect of all this, though. So,
yeah.
But, I don't get paid to show this off. It's just my love of the Steelers, all the stuff that you got there, Apparently, some folks in the comments section just don't understand when we say this is a Steelers show, and yeah, okay, we're homers. If you don't like it, there was
we try and be at least somewhat, realistic in our homerness, but yeah, we're still homers.
And God bless the professor, Zach Meckler. He's taking it all in stride, especially with his Twitter haters and everything. And now he's moving again with the other coaching job, and just me, you, and him, all this trifecta trying to get all on the same page. And at the same time, you got people from like the Browns, whatever they call themselves, Browns backers, whatever. They're not a nation. They're barely a football town, but it's like they come in, they jump into the comments section and it's like, you're not realistic, you're not fair, and it's like, you're listening to a Steelers show. I'm sorry that we're not worthy. It's like the whole Wayne's World thing.
Wayne's World party time.
Oh my God. You know what? We shall bow to no corporate masters, and it's like we don't have the same corporate masters to bow to. Where some of these guys jump from show to show as some other new upstart or whatever company or corporation tries to have a podcast for every single Steelers team, and inevitably, or not Steelers team, but NFL team, and inevitably it fails. And it's like if somebody's covering the AFC North, then okay, their job, they're journalists or broadcast analysts or whatever like that. It's like the NFL Network people flip-flop so much too. It's like they drive me crazy, but all these people have to bow to some, corporate line or whatever. We don't have that.
Right.
Except for the Chase Claypool pro football camp.
Oh, yeah.
Media
Chase
partner.
Claypool, that's a good thing, though.
Yeah, the Chase Claypool camp.com. I was going to ask you this. Actually, you know what? I may as well mention it. I was just kind of joking around, but since I put it out there already, about a year ago, we didn't have too many worries about certain position groups with the Steelers. We felt the team was very deep. Now you fast forward a year, and obviously we have concerns. Specifically today, we're going to talk about the offensive line, which I don't know if we may have had a little bit of concern last year. Not quite as much as obviously maybe this year. But you never have concerns about the wide receivers in Pittsburgh, almost never. And I mean, when they added Claypool to this group last year, it just put it over the top. Nobody even thinks about it. It's just like an afterthought. It's so much an afterthought that I don't think that they get even enough respect within the AFC North. You got people saying, well, the Bengals have the best group. Yeah, they stopped to play. They have good wide receivers, no doubt. Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase is added to that. You got Jarvis Landry and the overrated Odell Beckham Jr. and Rashard Higgins. I mean, you got a guy whose star his star is burnt out in Beckham. Jarvis Landry, I think, is a little bit underrated for what he does out there. But still, I don't think the Steelers get quite up there. There's some talk about Deontay Johnson breaking out and everything like that. But Chase Claypool, his football pro camp, youth camp, it is operated at a reduced capacity, so you want to reserve your spot for this if you have a boy or a girl interested between the grades of 1 through 8. This will be held on July 21st. We now know there's, we still don't have official dates on Steelers training camp. There may be some dates that folks could come out. So if you're planning on a trip and you're from out of town, this is something that you could bookend your trip with as well. And the little one or the growing one can learn some stuff from different coaches that'll be on hand for hands-on instruction, lectures, football skills stations, fundamentals contests, and non-contact games. It's high energy, fun, and positive environment. Cleanliness and sanitation measures are still in place. And of course, they'll get a souvenir autograph from Chase Claypool and a camp team photo. So the only thing we ask is if you're an autograph seeker or, memorabilia guy like Brian, the item's already provided. So don't go trying to grab some kid off the street, pay their way into this and then bring a helmet or something like that. It's it's not what it's for. This is meant to be specifically for the youngsters. So if you're interested in that, ChaseClaypoolCamp.com.
That's just not right. That's just not right.
We see it, man, all the time.
Little Freddie down the street. Come on, I'm gonna take you to camp.
Don't get me started. That'll be a whole other rant if I get into the Jerky Boys. And they've been doing some throwback stuff on their Facebook page. It's like, hey, I got this little kid, Pico. I don't know. I found him somewhere picking up peanuts. And you hear the guy in the background. He's like, you're a freaking liar. It's like, it's crazy. The crank calls, the prank phone calls. So you can't do that these days with the caller ID. But promo code is Steel City for the Chase Claypool camp. Someone's going to be here. The 2%ers that are left now, everybody's like, real show starts at 7 minutes in or something. It wasn't even quite that bad, but hey, got to support the sponsor, man. You know what I mean? It's so
absolutely.
So go check that out if you haven't already. You probably heard it on the show. This is now time for your main event of the program. Dum dum dum. Bring up Michael Buffer. I can't do Michael Buffer. I'm already long-winded here, Brian.
Let's get ready to talk.
I'll let you talk a little bit. And when I get through saying all that with the sponsor stuff, it's like, I need to give you the run sheet next time.
Do we have one of those? I don't know what the hell that is.
Oh, yeah, that's true. What is that? Hey, my friend.
Yes, sir.
We haven't had a chance to talk in a while. And since even when I went to talk, oh man, I went to venture out on my own and give the folks a bonus podcast about the Lindy's magazine that I was pretty fired up about. And when I was doing this, I had about like maybe 5 minutes to wrap, or maybe not even 5 minutes. I think I just wrapped. My phone's going off, my watch is going off, I get buzzed everywhere. How much of a shock was it to you last week? Was this Thursday, Friday? Yeah, something about the same period of time, end of the week, of David DeCastro's release from the Pittsburgh Steelers?
I mean, here's the thing. We have speculated. We speculated almost all last season because that was a ongoing storyline. DeCastro is not playing like DeCastro. It was almost week in and week out. We're like, that wasn't a best game from that side of the line. That wasn't the best game. And we kept thinking, is there an injury that is not being discussed? Turns out there was. But the thing is, it still was kind of a shock, right? You sit there, the last thing you expect is here's a guy, X number of Pro Bowls, 2 times All-Pro, a guy that you look at as one of the all-time greats at the position he's playing for the Steelers right now, or that you expect to maybe be discussed that way. A guy beloved by the local media, a guy that is a leader in the locker room, and that you really didn't have that direct hint that this was a possibility. Although when he got to, whatever it was, minicamp, and he didn't participate, you did start to wonder what's going on. And then the release comes and you find out, okay, there's been an ongoing ankle injury. He can't get the bone spurs out of it. It's certainly, you think this is a guy, anybody on the offensive line, your feet start to give you problems or your lower legs start to give you problems, you're in trouble, right? And some of the commentary that has come out since relating to, maybe I'm just going to retire or maybe I'm not. We'll have to see how it goes. I got to have another surgery. It's not, when you take it in context that way, you don't feel surprised, right? But when you take it as the Steelers have just released David DeCastro, you're like, what the blippity blop bloop blap?
Especially if you hadn't been paying attention. We got the fine folks who support us. Thanks once again, and tune in, listen, view, etc. And we weren't blowing smoke out of our posteriors. In fact, a lot of our preseason or off-season talk here has been around the discussion of a healthy David DeCastro, and I've seen it floated around a little bit. I tweeted it out actually that Trai Turner, who we're going to talk about, who was just signed, a former 5-time Pro Bowler with the Panthers. So he had his rookie season. He wasn't quite entrenched as a starter. Ripped off 5 Pro Bowl years in Carolina, strung all together after that, and then bookended with injury riddled season last year, of which he had surgery and got healed up too. And I'm assuming that's why he wasn't a priority free agent. He may not have been healthy or ready at the time of free agency starting, but it's kind of the things where the news now seems like, is it just a slow news period when it comes to the gloom and doom type thing? Or let's say if DeCastro retired back when Pouncey did, and you knew this going forward, and then March
oh my God.
Oh my God, even worse. But and then in March they sign Trai Turner's healthy, he's available, and he's one of these top names that are out there available as a replacement at right guard. You'd feel all right about it, but it seems like the narrative has just changed or skewed because of the timing with all of this.
Yeah, look, do you know? This is the DeCastro situation in and of itself is the cautionary tale about injured offensive linemen, right? So is Trai Turner going to work out? We certainly hope so. We certainly look for the best. The guy certainly has talent. It certainly has potential. But until he gets on the field again, you don't know, right? But is it a reasonable, choice and decision by the Steelers? Of course it is, considering what else is going on. The thing is, you figured they had to know, right? And so this has started an ongoing theme in the media at the moment, and maybe not even the real media, maybe just the sum of the media that's not really media, but is I'm not. Well, I sort of am in the basement, but
just throw it. You just throw it out there. It was
they're just bloggers.
Dejan Kovacevic, who started this problem. Is the guru. Well, he's the guru of DK. DK
Sports,
Pittsburgh Sports.
DK Pittsburgh Sports. Yeah.
Yeah. So
this whole Dotson, everybody's mad at Dotson.
Dejan can be fair a lot of times. And then there's some times where it's just like, whoa, this guy's coming out from like left field somewhere. And yeah, he said what? The Trai Turner. Now, I'd speculated this in the back rooms. I floated it when I first heard about Trai Turner coming to visit. And I said, could this be because they feel Kevin Dotson isn't ready? And it has nothing to do with Kevin Dotson's conditioning. It has to do with Kevin Dotson is entering his second year still. It was a 4th round pick. This is somebody they're developing. Maybe they're looking at Dotson to replace DeCastro on the right. Maybe Turner comes in, even though Turner's always played right. Maybe they'll look to play Turner at the left. I also floated the idea of, Why would they're bringing Turner? They got DeCastro. Maybe BJ Finney's going to start at center. Maybe Kendrick Green isn't ready. So there was a few things, and we hadn't had a chance to discuss that because, quite frankly, there hasn't been a whole lot to talk about with this program. We hadn't been able to get together. So, again, going back to the Lindy's thing, I wanted to talk about that magazine. I was like, oh, crap. I just talked about all this stuff with DeCastro, and I was saying a healthy DeCastro ranked there was listed as the second best guard, an elite player in the NFL, even within their rankings. But again, that's a healthy David DeCastro. What you had last year was not a healthy David DeCastro, and I argue that you put in somebody like Trai Turner, once again, got to be a healthy player, but is better than an unhealthy 2020 version of David DeCastro, ranked somewhere in the middle of the league. I've been getting into these battles with rankings, this, that, and the other thing, but just going back to Dotson and in this kind of like love triangle here. We don't know DeCastro's status necessarily. It was kind of left up in the air with Mike Tomlin.
Right.
And then all of a sudden it's DeCastro's out, immediately Turner's in, and then, oh no, you know what? Turner was originally brought in here because it was like somebody that was like way after the fact. Like I'm saying it right now, you know what I mean? But I wasn't going to say that because quite frankly, I don't like being a jerk to these players. And the big thing was, I'm looking at it as inexperience. DeJean floated it, and for all intents and purposes, I don't know if it's corroborated if he just had one source or multiple sources, but it sounds like one source. It could be anybody just willing to talk crap on someone. And he reported on it and said that Dotson was out of shape. All of his teammates come to his defense immediately. Dotson's out there floating things out there, and it's just like, these guys don't need this. Why? They don't need this stress. This is what I talk about with getting the clicks. And, I understand he's operating a business and you got to get eyeballs to the product, but at the same time, at what cost is that to you with the team? And also to the team. Now, this guy's going to live with this label because it's been put out there on social media. People who haven't been paying attention to DeCastro's injury just think a great player left. He's jumping from a sinking ship. And then one of the replacements on the offensive line, oh, well, this is just some mid-round joke that isn't taken as serious and isn't in shape, which is, far from the circumstances here. When it comes to, and I'm going to mention Kevin Dotson here specifically. Dotson, let's rewind to last year. How many people saw when Dotson was playing that they just wanted to leave him in there? I think everybody was like, hey, put this guy in here. He's a road grader, right? And I've got his snaps. This is nice. 6 snaps for 9% of the playing time, or all the offensive snaps. New York Giants the first week. He gets in there. DeCastro does not play that game. Right. Okay? So that's kind of interesting from that aspect. I was trying to see who the other – oh, you know why? I got them all the way at the bottom. That's when they had Stefan Wisniewski. It's the only game Stefan Wisniewski ended up playing, and then he got hurt too. So Kevin Dotson comes in. And what games did the Steelers run for about 100 yards or better? It was like the first 5-6 games of the season within that range. And Dotson is in for the full game. 65 offensive snaps week 2 against Denver. He doesn't play against the Houston Texans. DeCastro comes back, but DeCastro goes right back out. Week 5, they missed that week for COVID, and he still wasn't, DeCastro still wasn't quite all together with that early bye week. Dotson plays 72% of the game, 54 snaps, and then 65 against Cleveland Browns the week after. And then he doesn't see the field again for about 5 weeks. He gets a few snaps against the Ravens, plays about half the game against Buffalo, a full game against the Colts, but he's playing on the left this time in both of these later circumstances, as well as against the Cleveland Browns in Week 17. He was playing on the left side, and you see most of the better, with the exception of the Colts game, was just like a shootout. Even the Browns game, I have to say 80, 90 yards rushing. I have to go back and look. But most of these were the better run performances for the Steelers, and definitely better offensive performances, maybe minus Buffalo there. But the Colts and then even the Browns game, the final week of the season with Mason Rudolph and some backups in, Kevin Dotson looked like he could hold his own. So it's kind of already there, like a blueprint. He has a little bit of experience. There's a lot of uncertainty with the offensive line, but I think it comes from the unknown versus a lot of people are just throwing some of these guys under the bus and saying, oh, well, they're all like a bunch of bums. And I don't think that's fair, and I'm going to hold it there for a second because I got some things to say about the guys who just left because everybody wanted changes with the offensive line but then it's like, oh, no, not those changes.
Yeah, like, it's a different version of the shiny penny or the pretty thing on the other side of the fence syndrome, whatever you want to call it. The grass is greener on the other side. They look at, we needed this, and then as soon as they realize, okay, we need this because we're losing this, and the fear of that unknown variable. You're right. If you look at the guys they have in place right now, what you have is potential, but you don't have a history at this point. You don't have anything to fall back on that is going to actually make you feel really good about everything. You have a little bit with Dotson, right? You've got some with Finney. You've got a little bit with Banner. You've got some with Chooks. But at center, and now, whoever's going to be, fill the other guard position, whether it's Finney or Dotson or whether it's Trai Turner, whoever it is, you've got a lot of unknown, right? And you don't have that comfort level of saying, I know that these guys can perform at a high level because they've done it in the past at the pro level, right? And on top of that, then, your quarterback of the offensive line, Kendrick Green, potentially is going to be a rookie. So I get why there's nervousness, but you got to go outside that nervousness and start to look at, there comes a point in time where the whole reason you got these guys is because of their potential. And that's what you're trying to bank on. They will have their ups and downs, no question about it. But when you take them individually and you look at what we have, you have to assume that you're going to essentially improve, right? So you had Pouncey, who I still love and I still think is a Hall of Famer, but is definitely on the downside of his career last year. No question about it.
Oh, maybe the last two, actually.
Yeah.
We were talking about his bad snaps in 2019 and how Ben and his big paws may have actually kind of mitigated or hid some of the issues that were going on. Yeah.
So you got Pouncey that's at the end of his career. You've got, DeCastro, who clearly was a shell of himself. You had two brand new, people playing a tackle. Well, one brand new person playing a tackle that ended up being two brand new people playing basically at the right tackle position. And you had Villanueva, who, again, made his legend on his story. And even though some of the media will say he had Pro Bowl level seasons, you're mincing because it was close. He was never a dominant right or left tackle. Never. I mean, he was serviceable and he did a good job. And for a guy that they basically took from Mike Tomlin, having a moment of, I don't want to say arousal, but well, a moment of seeing him across the field, the giant man on the Eagles sideline. Let's make him a tackle. The guy who was a defensive guy and who was a tight end and all these other things, finding that guy and getting the number of seasons they got out of him, amazing. But again, not necessarily the greatest guy for the position. So I do get the sense of, hesitancy and the concern. And there's certain legitimate reasons to have those concerns. But there's also legitimate reasons to be optimistic that the overall group, once they start to sync, will actually be better.
Yeah, I got a lot to chew off the bone there because I got a lot of things to discuss. Particularly, one of the questions I was going to ask you is, who would you have brought back from last year? You know what I mean? Like, here's a case in point. Pouncey missed 3 games last year. One, he sat the final week of the season against Cleveland. He missed the games against the Ravens, and I believe this was COVID protocol, by the way, and the Washington football team, I think. And there were only 5 days between those games. Remember, Pouncey went on there like they kept delaying the game, and then all of a sudden he showed up on the list or for the protocol deal. And so J.C. Hassenauer has to come in there, and J.C. Hassenauer also plays for Matt Filer. Matt Filer plays 10 snaps over the course of the last 4 games of the year after playing practically every single snap up until that point at the left guard position. And he got a healthy contract. Another undrafted guy. This is the thing that gets me. Is he's undrafted. Big Al is a guy they find as a college street free agent because he was with the Eagles. What you're referring to is during the preseason, he was playing as a defensive end or defensive tackle with the Philadelphia Eagles, who are usually a common kind of regional preseason trip one way or the other for the Steelers during that period in August. So Mike Tomlin, they're watching film, they're evaluating people, and he sees this large man across the field. He's seen these large men before. Max Starks is one. Zach Banner's the next guy up, actually. So they kind of have always gravitated this way. But Villanueva, and this is going to go to the Mike Munchak story as well. And looking back on how some of our rosy memories are, Le'Veon Bell and the Steelers running backs, and they've had their issues. Bell gets hurt, of course. D'Angelo gets in there, he does his thing some, and then he doesn't, and then you got, I don't know, Fitzgerald Toussaint and things. There's always been headaches with injuries here, there, or anywhere. This all began with Kelvin Beachum, who was a 7th-round pick in an undersized tackle that wasn't supposed to be anybody, and he's still floating around in the league and doing very well. And with the Arizona Cardinals, I wish it was somebody they could have went and snatched right back. Yep. It's unfortunate that he's the one with the more longer-term prospects here, because there was a time before he got hurt, it was either going to be him or Ramon Foster, which one was on the way out. Big Al was in much the same way. Zach Banner a couple years ago getting the jumbo set reps, the reporting eligible number 76, number 78, or whatever, you know what I mean? So 76 is Chooks. What's Banner wearing? I'm trying to think now. We'll get back to that.
72.
72? Yeah.
I think.
I'm just trying to think, because everybody was like, yay, you know what I mean? Now all of a sudden it's like, nah, this guy's, he's, doo-doo. It's like, come on. The Steelers did invest some picks, and it was a multiple-year process, and we've been seeing this from the onset before even DeCastro news or anything like that, they're going to try some things, and some things are going to work, and some things may not work. It started with Marquise Pouncey. Pouncey wasn't there in the Super Bowl. They had to have Doug Legursky make like his first start as a center. You saw some things happen like that. I'll go back to that other Super Bowl team in a little bit, because it was a pretty who's who, no-name set of offensive linemen for that one too. And you go along the course, and you have Pouncey drafted first round, Marcus Gilbert's next as a second rounder. David DeCastro falls in their lap in the first round, and then they also take Mike Adams and Kelvin Beachum all in the same draft. And obviously Mike Adams didn't work out, but 3 of those guys were arguably, at least Gilbert never got his due, but he should have been a Pro Bowl type guy. Yes. And Ramon Foster was already there as well, undrafted player also. And then Beachum gets hurt, 7th round, basically almost an undrafted guy, could have fell out of the draft entirely, and Villanueva jumps in, and they continue to have this success. How much of that is credited to Mike Munchak? I can't say for sure, because the Steelers have been, 30 or 31, 29, and 32nd in rushing, the last 3 years or whatever. But that last year, Mike Munchak was here, they were like 30th. In running the ball. So it wasn't much better. So is that credited to Le'Veon Bell, or is it just credited to the guys they were getting older? They were starting to show some wear and tear. Marcus Gilbert gets traded, and then Ramon Foster retires, and it's already been a changing of the guard, and they were already preparing for this with Zach Banner and Chooks Okorafor, and even BJ Finney, who they were giving larger raises and money to as a practice squad player than what you would normally do for those types of guys. I'm going to argue that they've always been kind of having their eye on the ball kind of towards the future and somewhere down the road as far as the offensive line changing. And we got used to the All-Pro, Pro Bowl accolades and kind of overlooked that, or maybe overstepped that. Although I still think if Dave would have got his ankle cleaned up, then he's still an elite player.
Oh, I agree with that last statement for sure. If DeCastro is healthy, he's still an elite player.
It's still just one of 5.
Yes, it's still one of 5. But I mean, that is a staple of the way the Steelers work. They are always looking to the future, right? It's not just what do we got to do right now to win. That's never their attitude. Their attitude is let's go all in for this season and screw the rest of the future. Right. It's a balance between what are the pieces we need to put in place now to give us the best chance to win, and what are the pieces that we need to put in place to help secure that consistency going forward to give us the best chance to win in the future as well. The way that they draft, they look for diamonds in the rough in lower rounds, especially at tackle. They they may undervalue the tackle position in relation to how the rest of the league values tackles. For them, it's always been the middle of the line that they've invested in, center and guard. You talk about tackle positions. I other than Mike Adams, who was maybe one of the highest drafted tackles they've ever had. Well, where was Gilbert drafted?
Second round.
Second round, okay.
He's another second round find with Colbert, man. He knows how to find him there.
He does know how to find him in the second round. It's not often that they draft a tackle high, right? Center they value a lot, which everybody does. And we'll see where we go with Kendrick Green. I have a lot of optimistic views about this young man. So I think, we'll see. But
let me support your thought there.
Okay.
I think the interior offensive line is solid between Dotson, Green, and or Finney, and as long as it's not Hassenauer, okay?
Yeah.
and Trai Turner. I think that's going to be pretty strong. My point over the last 3 years wasn't necessarily just a Mike Munchak's story. Over those last 3 years, who was the offensive coordinator? I think a lot of this, people ran Todd Haley out of town, but you look, and I know Le'Veon Bell hasn't been the same player, nor did we think he would be. We thought a lot of it was system, and that system was Todd Haley's system.
Called my shot on that one, buddy.
Yeah, well, hey, and along with the offensive line kind of changing and the play calling being real suspect, we've mentioned that a big component of the offense this year will be Matt Canada taking over the offensive coordinator duties and Adrian Clem whipping these guys into shape. So, I thought Mike Munchak was very valuable, and yes, I do think that he got more out of maybe Alejandro Villanueva and even Matt Filer than maybe some other coachings or ours or otherwise did. I'm not going to place it all just on him coming and going, because they still had that poor year at the tail end, and the talent was already here prior to him arriving. It's not like he took a group that was a bunch of ragtag guys. They were already Pro Bowl guys and entrenched starters. So you got to do both the glass half full, glass half empty with Mike Munchak, and kind of have to realize that a lot of this product, I think, is because of Randy Fichtner more than anything else. So as I go even further back, and this has gotten people to say Le'Veon Bell is overrated, and he's been running his mouth and doing his own thing too. But there's quite a few folks out there.
Don't call it a comeback.
He's been there for years. There being he's like, to me, it's like Antonio Brown. I think it just feels like guys who don't want to go through all of what it takes to be an NFL player, being all of the off-season workouts and camps, but they want paid. Like the guy, being the man, and that's the way that's the way I've looked at both of their career trajectories. Bell could have had every franchise record.
You can't say that about Antonio Brown. There was nobody that worked harder than Antonio Brown.
No, that's true. But then all of a sudden he goes to Oakland and he doesn't.
Well, he lost his mind, but it's not.
It
didn't stop him from working. He still did the work. He just was nuts. But Bell, on the other hand, I will agree with you. I don't think he put in the effort that he needed to, and taking the year off. We just said it. I mean, I remember the show where we definitely said he will not do as well anywhere else that he goes.
No,
and
absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm going to pull up some stats, Brian, but I floated something out on Twitter.
And damn you for making me defend Antonio Brown. Curse you. Curse you.
Well, I don't think he was cleared. I was just figuring he only played half a season last year too. It'll be kind of interesting to see where that goes, as far as, does he show up in a hot air balloon or a Rolls Royce again, or does he complain about a helmet? Is he going to want to practice, or is he going to diva it up? So, yeah, I don't know. I don't even like bringing him up, to be completely honest. Trying to find, I had a very, very solid tweet here. Not only about, I had the article too over at steelcityunderground.com from Friday, I think, last week, if you want to go look at that. Quite a bit chew off of that as well. I said reasons why the Steelers fans shouldn't be too worried about the offensive line. A lot of people talk about a young Ben Roethlisberger. They talk about Ben Roethlisberger being mobile and things of that nature because I floated an interesting point here. The last time the Steelers won the Super Bowl in 2008, these are the guys that they had on their offensive line. Justin Hartwig, Willie Colon, Darnell Stapleton, particularly in the Super Bowl, Max Starks.
Maxie!
And then Chris Kimiatu, who replaced the great Alan Faneca, an actual player who still had something left in the tank but had contract disputes with the Steelers, and he went and sailed away. So those were some large shoes to fill, and they still got it done. Well, everybody wants to argue that Ben was this amazing or whatever physical specimen back then, and he isn't so much now. And it's just like...
Ben has never been an amazing physical specimen.
No, people are still going to say he's like out of shape and stuff like that. Now, I can't find
They said that in his rookie year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm trying to find the full. I got partial stats. The last time he won in the Super Bowl, it was 59.91%, not even 60% completion percentage. And compared to last year, he was 65.6. 3,301 yards passing. Last year, he was 3,803. Last year, he had 33 TDs to 10 interceptions. Back then when he won the Super Bowl, 17 touchdowns to 15 interceptions. He took 46 sacks in 2008 to 13 last year. I would argue I'd rather have 2020 Ben versus 2008 Ben based on all of those statistics. And he still had fast Willie Parker. He still had Santonio Holmes. He still had Hines Ward. He had Heath Miller. So when somebody's like, well, now he's old and washed up and he's not mobile. It wasn't. Bruce Arians was getting him hit around like a pinata for several years there, too. Killed. That reminds me of Rambo First Blood. Man, it only knows how to kill. He's like,
yeah, sure. I can't do a Stallone.
No, it wasn't Stallone.
Yeah.
It wasn't Stallone.
I know, it was Richard Crenna.
Yes.
And I can't do a Richard Crenna either, but...
Eat things that make a billy goat puke.
Yeah. That's my Stallone. Yes.
It's fairly accurate. It's almost like a cross with Patrick Starfish from SpongeBob. I don't think I could do it either. Yeah, so... Ben 2008 Ben versus 2020 Ben, and everybody just thinks he's going to get killed, and it's like, well, as long as he's not as bad as 2008, everybody's going to say now, but the defense was so good, Brian. The defense was so good, Joe. And it's like, I have no reason to believe the defense won't be as good this year also. So they still have a lot in place there to make that viable. Yeah. In fact, last year, if the offense could have done anything more than the 3 and out here or there, they get somewhere. So that they really do enough with the offensive line. When I look at that and see that they could have success with a bunch of unknowns and guys that are, maybe middle of the pack or undrafted players and everything over the years, they had never been, I think, better than 14th, 15th, and 16th were the 3 best years they had as run teams with Mike Munchak. So if you go and you do, and Najee Harris comes out of here and at least gets them, if they're at least average, running the ball and on the line, if Ben takes 20 sacks instead of 13, and as long as there's no major injury, I don't see any issue. I don't see the sky is falling type things. And in particular, and we've kind of jumped around Zach Banner. We've jumped around Chooks Okorafor. People are like, Chooks was so bad last year. How many times have we actually mentioned his name in our post?
He wasn't that bad. He really wasn't that bad.
He gave up the same amount of sacks as Alejandro Villanueva, just the 3. But we were always talking about Villanueva on the left side. Well, you're going to move this bum and put him on the left side, and he's going to be even worse because Pro Football Focus had Chooks real low and had Alejandro Villanueva real high. And that's why the Ravens will have the best offensive line in the NFL this year. You can't say the Steelers. I got in this argument too. You can't say they had a down or a bad 2020 season with the offensive line, and then also say that they lost a good player at the same time. Somebody on that line had to be bad, and they're only bringing one of those guys back. So can they be worse? It's hard to envision them being as bad as they were last year. And I still think even last year, if it's not Randy Fichtner calling the plays, they have a little bit of spice of life here and a little bit of variety. I still think they have better success than what they did.
I think that's certainly within the realm of possibility. I want to bring up something about the Ben thing, because you were talking about Ben. Oh, we need this year Ben. The guy that I was talking to, basically what he said was, I think Ben is a wiser quarterback, but he lost that spark of creativity. He doesn't do those Ben type things anymore. And I'm mocking the voice. So anyway, the point is, because
that's not true at all, man.
It's not, but you could maybe start to draw that conclusion from last season, right? Because again, he couldn't create as well. Not necessarily because he lost that ability to create, because he did have some Ben-like plays even last season, but he couldn't hold the ball that long. It's one thing to create when one guy's coming at you from over there, but the middle of the line is open and you can move around. It's another thing when everybody's coming from everywhere.
Well, is that solved now? With Najee Harris or this line, I think it is. You get people to back.
Helps.
If they creep up, then you can get them to back off too. Instead of just pass. We knew
it's going to be. Oh no, go ahead. Yeah.
No, we knew it was going to be a run. Anybody who follows the Steelers close enough, kind of knew what was being called about a month into the year. You knew damn near every play. It was like you had the playbook right in front of you, like you were playing Madden. It was so predictable.
The teams that are used to playing the Steelers are not going to know what they're seeing, because Ben is going to be under center a lot.
You think so?
I do.
Okay.
I do think he's going to be under center. Yes, because that brings play action into the game. You can't play action easily when you're always in the shotgun. You can do it, but not as effectively. When you have the threat of a running game, play action also becomes more useful, right? So I think that they're going to have a running game. I think having a running game and having Ben under center in a position where they're making quicker decisions, all of those things are going to contribute to making this offense look different than what people are used to. I absolutely believe Ben will play 40% of the time under center, maybe more.
Wow. I mean, I'm going to have to find this, and I don't have it. Of course I don't have it. I probably had this bookmarked at one point. Let's see.
It will take some getting used to, by the way, because he's going to have to get used to playing a different type of game. But I think he's open to it. The guy wants to win one more time at least before he rides off into the sunset.
Oh, absolutely. But they tried to do that, if you recall, and he trips over his own shoelaces. I think he tripped over J.C. Hassenauer. That was against the Bengals.
Yes, he did.
That was such a cluster of let's throw everything at the board and see what sticks when it comes to that game. And that's why they lost. Not only that, if you look at the short field positions that were given up, there was just some uncharacteristic things, and the defense was also gassed at this point. A lot of people like to say the late season collapse. You look at a lot of the players or a lot of the injuries. You look at the whole COVID situation of playing on a Wednesday afternoon against the Ravens. I understand the Ravens didn't have all their players either, but you do that and then you only get 5 days off to play against the Washington football team, who now everyone has put up there as maybe potentially being the best defense in the NFL this year. They had most of those components last year also. And, the rich are getting richer because they didn't have a good season. They had some high picks and they keep adding guys. But that front four, man, I mean, you add Chase Young to Montez Sweat, and I'm trying to think who else was over there. They were able to apply pressure. Steelers couldn't run the ball. They were on a shorter week. And the Ravens got to have their game kicked, an extra day, which I thought wasn't fair there either. And it was a mess. The scheduling did not behoove the Steelers last season. I think they have a very good chance of going 14-15-0, something in that neighborhood, if they just kept everything as is, because they would have. Oh,
you mean last year?
Yeah, last year.
Okay, yes.
They would have played the Titans on schedule. And I assume that would have just ended up the same way. They would have had the bye after the Ravens game, which wouldn't have beat them up as much. And then that Thursday night game would have been played. Maybe the that one would be a slugfest there on a short week. But that's a game that's played at Heinz Field and would have been played in front of fans still. And then that got changed too, and then there were no fans. And then they have a mini bye before they go and play Washington. So there's just a whole lot of things that are a mess. They had the bad game against the Cowboys on the road right after that Ravens game too. That it wasn't. It's just drives me crazy. Anyways, shotgun under center. I found it, Brian. I was able to yap enough in order to research. I'm multitasking here. The Steelers, believe it or not, this is. Oh, why are you showing me 2019 stats? Give me 2020. Hold on a second. Although that wouldn't have made much of a difference. You might be surprised to know that the Steelers, presumably Ben here, I don't have it game by game. I'm sure we could look it up. Yeah, we could look it up by week here too. This is courtesy of sharpfootballstats.com. 17% of the time under center last year. So your uptick
is double.
Yeah, but
more than double.
I want to say, what's the average here? So total snaps, 35% is the total for the league. Cleveland, 57%. I believe they lead the way. And, of course, it's, let's see, data source order. That would be nice. And it's still not going to do what I want it to do. Anyways, here we go. Tennessee, 59%. Let's see some other teams. New Orleans, 48. New Orleans, just a little less than half. The Minnesota Vikings, 64. Okay, so they're the leader, pretty much followed by the Cleveland Browns. Atlanta Falcons, 48. But you have teams like the Arizona Cardinals, 8%. And this one's going to surprise a lot of people as soon as I can find them on the chart. The Baltimore Ravens, 92% of their snaps. No, I'm sorry, not 92. 97% of their snaps are shotgun. And they
that doesn't surprise me at all.
Run first team, but they get to operate some play action out of that too. The difference there obviously is, and people are like, I'm surprised Lamar Jackson hasn't been injured yet. I saw somebody say that on Twitter. It's like, you can't catch him.
Yeah.
He's got a natural ability to avoid tackles, and he's faster than Speedy Gonzalez or the Roadrunner. So, but yeah, I know it doesn't surprise you, but I just want to throw out there, I don't want to give off the narrative. Patrick Mahomes, same exact amount of snaps under center as the Steelers with 17%. Deshaun Watson, 18% last year with the Texans. I'm looking for some other teams in the same ballpark. Miami Dolphins, they had a bunch of guys playing quarterback. I won't mention the Eagles. So some of these, you get a give or take. I think maybe 30, you're looking at 1/3, maybe more element of surprise. We'll see if it ends up happening. I would like to see, wonder how far back they have stats. So they have stats back to 2016, 2017, what? Is that Todd Haley's last year with the Steelers? It sure is. Let's look this up. 29% under center. Interesting stuff, man. Ben doesn't like to go under center, though. I don't know. 34% in 2016. Some interesting numbers. So I'm not going to advocate.
I think it's going to be back up in that. It's going to be higher. I'm telling you, I think it's going to be above 40%.
I was surprised when you said that. But now going back on this, back to basics, man. Back to what worked.
Yep.
It makes sense to me. My only thing with the surprise was like, I've been having these conversations about you can't run the football out of shotgun formation, and it's
absolutely you can.
Clearly not true.
Yeah. Well, especially when you have 3 running backs in the backfield.
Yeah, and here's the thing though: Steelers run rate shotgun versus under center last year, when they're let me see, and then pass rate. So pass rate under center was only 15%. And it was 77 when they were out of shotgun. So it was pretty much, if Ben's going under center, they're probably going to run the ball. If he's out of shotgun, it's a pretty good chance. And we've broken this down by down. It didn't even really matter distance. First down was like a coin flip. And then the other downs, it was like, unless it was 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1. And then all of a sudden they put Benny Snell in because supposedly, for some reason, he's been labeled as a short yardage gainer. That's what never made sense to me last year. As much as people rag on Jalen Samuels, there's a guy who has a nose for, I don't know that he's lost yardage, like when in his college career, and he scores touchdowns. That's the guy you put in short yardage. Will he have a spot this year or a role? That's going to be hard to say, too. I don't know how Matt Canada is going to end up using him. We didn't really talk about the tight ends. Pat Friarmuth is a guy that's going to be more of a blocking tight end. And they're going to have a healthy fullback maybe for the first time in 2 or 3 years also with Derek Watt. I think when you add all of those into the recipe and make this a mix, along with the change in play calling, we can make a lot of arguments. I think the biggest argument is going to be, how can they be worse? Kind of hard to picture it being worse.
If it's worse, it's going to be a long season. Because it's already going to be a long season.
Here's a few more for you. I don't necessarily know. Everybody thinks this is Ben's last ride. This is Ben's last season. I don't know that that's necessarily true. But if they have a down year, Ben or not, in 2022, that puts them in a position where they may have a top 10 pick. And that's not going to bode well for the rest of the AFC North. If the Steelers, they have one down year, would you trade that in order to get a quarterback? And I have people saying, there aren't good quarterback prospects coming out next year. I don't think there's ever good quarterback prospects coming out any year.
Say that right now. We can all go, there's not a lot of good quarterbacks. By the time we get to the draft, oh my God, these quarterbacks are the best quarterback class that's ever been.
First rounders.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. We're a year away from it, or less obviously, but we're 9 months away from the next draft, 10 months away from the next draft, and of course, when you're at that point, the quarterback class, maybe there's one or two, and as college football starts to ramp up, and as those things start to change, all of a sudden, this is going to be such a great stock full of change quarterbacks. It's going to be a great class, and I just got to get up and get one of them because they're going to be great. And again, out of however many go in the first round, maybe one of them will be good.
Well, people had Ian Book and Kyle Trask slipping up there into like their top 50s, and
some guy who threw a long pass once in 10 games, and it was nice and it was pretty, and they're like,
Trey Lance,
that guy. There you go. Yes, that guy's going to be so good.
It wasn't. I don't know it was necessarily him, but they had the abbreviated, the cut FCS season. He plays for North Dakota. They played in the spring. He couldn't play in the spring. He had to declare for the draft. So, and he's coming from an FCS school. And can you imagine one of those guys going top 3? Like at this same time last year? You don't know the season's going to be canned yet. But Zach Wilson, maybe. I mean, the only one that was like a shoe-in was Trevor Lawrence at this point. Everybody knew that because he decided to return to college. Otherwise, he would have been a top pick in the previous year. So
you kind of thought Justin Fields would still be in the top picks too.
But that's fine.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Yeah,
very fair. So, encompassing all of this, let's look at let's wrap this up. Let's look at the names that we have. Chuks Okorafor, kind of almost the veteran of this group now, moves to left tackle, and I'm not as concerned about it as everyone else is. The unfortunate situation is if he or Banner doesn't hold up, then what? They drafted Dan Moore. I know a lot of people are big on Dan Moore. Dan Moore is the next Villanueva, the next Zach Banner. He's the next guy that's going to be the jumbo package guy, I believe, that's going to get his beak wet with those handful of snaps each game, and he's going to get in basically if there's any injury circumstance there. So you kind of hope in a way that maybe that's not the case. I don't want to rush him out there, particularly if it's because of injury, then so be it. If it's because somebody else isn't doing well, I got to kind of hope that wasn't the case leading up to playing in the season, and they should have played this guy anyways. So that's definitely something. Let's see. I had another thought that actually came through in here too, Brian, and it was they got Turner for like $3 million. I know it's a 1-year prove-it deal. So Turner, healthy. I'm hoping that he's a solid addition and steps right in, and will he be peak David DeCastro? I don't believe so.
Hard to be that.
But better maybe than unhealthy David DeCastro. And the Steelers.
Very possible. Yeah.
And the Steelers with this collective group. Remind me to come back to salary cap. Because I have something else to mention with that. Let's see. Center. Would we have Kendrick Green here? Maybe that would be that would be the hope. I think that's the expectation.
Yeah, that's what you hope. Yes.
Oh, you're moving a guard over to center though, but he's a guy that was a pulling guard, and I know people were like, "Well, he played for Illinois," and I get sick of hearing like, "Oh, he played for like a bad Big Ten team or whatever." What's that got to do with the individual? You go from that bad team. It happens all the time in the NFL. The player goes from a bad team to a good team and makes that good team great. So that's why they sign free agents. That's the whole point. Sometimes bad teams are trying to bring in somebody better to make their team better. So you got to hope. I know the dirt may have been. It's hard because with the centers, Mike Webster, Dermontti Dawson, Marquise Pouncey, even the few stopgaps you had, Justin Hartwig. Who's our other guy we always forget? Jeff Hardings. We usually forget Hartwig and Jeff Hardings. They had a little bit of a span in between where they didn't have the Hall of Fame level player. I'm not going to put that on Kendrick Green. He just has – don't snap the ball over anyone's head. Don't snap it in the dirt. Don't get beat. That's all it amounts to. I think B.J. Finney's capable in that situation. I think Finney could play at guard if they need to, too. We talked enough about Dotson, I believe. Is Dotson an improvement over Matt Filer from the previous year? Could be. Filer, I think, had a tough sledding because of who was next to him too, with Alejandro Villanueva. If you're saying Villanueva, if you thought you lost this great player, and nothing against him, Father Time is undefeated, so I don't want to make it seem like I'm piling on with him, but I think we always felt that even though he had the Pro Bowl accolades, he was kind of the weakest link among an elite group, and that he was just average. So when he plays with other average guys, maybe that exposes him a bit more. We'll see what Zach Banner can do. I understand he's coming off, the ACL. So another large human. There's some others. I already mentioned Dan Moore is one of the backups. Anthony Coyle had been a practice squad guy. Rashawn Coward comes over, has lots of starting experience from the Bears, has also played center also. Joe Haig kind of, I think, fills all the different roles there and can play tackle, comes over, Tampa Bay, maybe previously with the Lions, I think, trying to say off the top of my head. So they got a few players that are in reserve here, and we'll see how maybe they shake out as far as the depth. Is it going to be, it's a mixed bag, I think, a collection of people, and we'll see who's hungriest to get that. And I'm not going to say it's going to be perfect this year. It's going to be ugly out the gate too. A lot of people are like, well, it ain't going to be pretty like very early on. And I'm like,
I don't know.
I don't know that's a fair assessment.
It could be. Let's put it that way. It could be ugly out of the gate.
Yeah, but football.
But I don't know that it has to
out the gate.
Let's go back and realize they generally aren't very good
in
the
September.
First two games. Anyway, so it could be a very bad flavor of first two games of regular season football, but I'm okay with that. You got to have some growing pains. If they come out of the gate any better than that, it's a bonus, right? I mean, if they're playing decent, just decent, they don't have to be great. If they're just playing decent, we should all go, woohoo! We're ahead of the game. Because of the amount of moving parts that exist here, and because they will only get better.
Yeah, that's the big thing.
Yeah.
As the season goes on, everyone improves.
Yeah.
So I'm going back to the names from that 2008 Super Bowl. Kelmiatu was a 6th round pick, replacing Alan Faneca. Everybody probably thinking, that's not going to work out. Justin Hartwig was a free agent signing. I believe that was after the Sean Mahan experiment failed.
Yep.
He was injured with the Panthers the year before, too. So you got a little bit of coincidence there, correlation with Trai Turner signing. But collectively, Chase Claypool is in a contract year. Banner, I think, signed for 2 years. Dotson's second-year rookie contract. Kendrick Green's a rookie. Who'd I miss? Turner's a 1 year. It's going to be a work in progress. 2-3 years, but also this could be a group if they like long term. If it ends up working out too, you'll have the group together for a while, like you did that initial group we were talking about with like Gilbert and Pouncey and DeCastro. And not only that, now they're not paying the Gilbert,
DeCastro, Pouncey, and you're not paying in the top layer. Yeah,
I think they got like $9 million invested in the entire offensive line, and they also just got some savings from David DeCastro. A lot of people are banging the drum for Malik Hooker, or maybe bringing in another cornerback. Maybe there's a trade. Maybe there's a camp cut. There's something that they're keeping their eyes on. Definitely, they're going to be making a move. They showed their hand already. Who was it? Kevin Colbert said that or was it Keith Butler, that they're looking for edge depth. They came straight out and said that, and we're going to see, Mike Hilton. And that's the thing too. It's like, how do you replace some of these guys? Mike Hilton, nobody knew who he was. He was trying to fight for a job in training camp. He came in undrafted off the streets. They found him because Senquez Golson played with him. They drafted Senquez. They saw the film of Senquez and saw this other guy on the field. Congratulations to Mike going out there and earning the big bucks with the Bengals and everything like that. But people act as though you have to replace every one of these guys with a multi-million-dollar free agent or a first-round pick. And it's not. The Steelers always tend to find a way, and most NFL teams that have success find some players through some other means to help fill out that roster. So it's not just it never is like an all-star team. And looking forward, man, the amount of money, I'm telling you, and I don't expect them to have a bad season. I expect them to be in the 10-win category. I expect them with 7 playoff spots to be in contention. I still believe that of Cleveland and Baltimore as well. If there's some hanger-ons from around the AFC talking about that, I do not believe the Bengals will have a better record than any of those 3 teams this year either. I don't believe the Bengals have a better offensive line than the Pittsburgh Steelers, because it's like the devil you know versus the devil you don't. That's kind of where my point was from 2020. That's the devil you know. They had to change all that. They had to change the coaching. I think they've done enough. I think having been there is still important because you still have that veteran presence. If they were changing all of this and throwing Mason Rudolph or Dwayne Haskins out there, then you've really got a lot of room for concern.
Then you got a recipe for disaster. Yeah.
Yes, you do. And Najee would be brand new. And the only thing you have that's Pat Friarmuth brand new, and all you got is Ebron and the wide receivers that are coming back, and it's like that's a whole lot of moving parts. So I think having been there is also very important. So wrapping this up, did they do enough with the offensive line? I think they did as much as they could with the situation, with their cap, their picks, their other needs, et cetera, that they could do to prepare for this year. And I don't think it'll be all the disaster a lot of people are making it out to be.
I don't disagree with you. Not that I often do, but this is it. It is a work in progress, but it is a line that is filled with possibility and potential. And when you are making the kind of changes that they had to make, that's all you can ask for, is to have the prospects look good, right? If you've got a potential for goodness or greatness, that's fantastic. If what you have after all the work is you look at it and go, this is doo-doo, then you're in trouble. And I don't think that that's the case, right? It's not doo-doo. And just to prove it, it's not doo-doo. Oh, it's over there. Doo-doo.
You have your draft Twitter types. Steelers should have went with somebody. They could have gotten Tevin Jenkins. Okay, you get the tackle out of the way. Now what do you do at center? Okay, go and you get Creed Humphrey. All right, now we're into the 3rd round. And where were the Steelers picking at? Let me see.
I'm going to say this. I've said it before, but I'm going to say it again. This is my opinion on draft Twitter. If you guys were any good, you'd be working for an NFL team. Sorry, not sorry.
I'm trying to not talk out my posterior here. Landon Dickerson off the board already by the time the Steelers pick at 55 or whatever. Yep. Creed Humphrey was there, and Trey Sermon would have been there in the 3rd round. Do you think? And I don't know that Jenkins is the fit for what they're looking to do in this offense, nor do I think Creed Humphrey was. Obviously, why they passed on either one of them, maybe falling in their lap. But we're talking about maybe the 6th best tackle at this point. Let me see. Penei Sewell, Rashawn Slater, Alex Leatherwood, Christian Darrisaw, all gone before the Steelers pick at 24. Tevin Jenkins, Liam Eichenberg, Walker Little, Jackson Carman, Samuel Cosme, Dylan Raduns. Those are the next group of guys that go before the Steelers end up with another pick here, I believe. Let me just verify that one more time because I've forgotten what number they've selected at now. It's been a minute. Let me see. The Steelers, they picked a 55. So Raduns is also gone to the Titans at pick 53, 2 picks before that. So in order to get one of that latter group of players, I said you would have had to have taken them in the first round, and then that has the potential to be a reach. Then you don't get one of the top running backs because they're gone, and Sermon may be the next best guy. Otherwise, you're dealing with Ramondre Stevenson or Kenneth Gainwell, or I think one of the other, not Javonte Williams, but Michael Carter from North Carolina. And do you believe that that would be any better than rolling with Anthony McFarland and Benny Snell? I do not think that that improves you. You don't have any depth at tight end. You don't have anybody capable maybe the block at tight end. I love Kevin Rader as my dark horse guy to make this roster, but I don't know that he's the guy that you want out there for 17 games this year behind Eric Ebron, who could get injured also. So and also I think it's being heavily understated how much maybe Pat Friarmuth will be used. We know what it was like to have Heath out there, somebody that can move the chains, somebody that was good in the red zone, and somebody that could block. That is another dynamic when you have a running back who can catch the ball and might be able to be a game changer and playmaker all on his own with Najee Harris. I think the way the Steelers played this out, I think it ends up being better than maybe getting one of these guys that's definitely only shoehorned as a tackle. You can make the argument for the center. Maybe that's not what they wanted. They look at somebody, Dickerson with the injury history, and then maybe you don't have the guy. And then it's just who cares if he was picked or not, and you got your center. He gets hurt in camp or something from his pre-existing injury, and then you don't even have him. And then it's a disaster all the way around because you passed on the running back or you passed on the tight end and got the center that you won't even have, and now you don't have a center. You don't have any of them. So I think the scenario, it's always coulda, woulda, shoulda, and we really won't know how any of this plays out for 2 to 4 years of time, as we always say, trying to grade the rookies. But I like the situation that they have that played out here, and I think it worked well and played in the Steelers' hand versus what a lot of people still say they should have done instead.
Right. And remember, I was always a offensive line first guy. You got to take an offensive lineman in the first round. But where they drafted and what the guys that went ahead of them, would you not have Najee Harris over the tackles that were available? No, I'd rather take Najee Harris. I don't believe there was a first round center in this draft. Therefore, I would rather have Najee Harris than any center. There wasn't a guard need at the time. Apparently there was, and we didn't know it. But, there still was. You still have B.J. Finney as reserve guy, too. Yeah. Well, you still hope DeCastro is going to get better, and it turns out he didn't. But, even saying that, is there a guard I'd have rather taken at that point than Najee Harris? Probably not. There were tackles I would have taken if they were there. They were gone. So, and as it came time, when we did that final mock draft roundtable, right? I think every single one of us, we all went, it's Najee Harris, probably. Yeah. Because it was obvious it was going to probably be Najee Harris.
Yeah, and who's your other center here? You go third round, Quinn Miners. So after they take Kendrick Green, Miners was still there. Wisconsin Whitewater. Will his play transcend to the pro level NFL? Well, if it does, your argument about playing for the Illini is kind of invalidated too. You know what I mean? Playing for teams, we're looking at the highest drafted. I don't think anyone has ever went top 100 from a Division III school in the NFL draft. I think he's the first and only. So a lot of things we're jumping around here, but did the Steelers do enough?
What division is North Texas State?
Are they Are they still North Texas State? I don't know.
Think they are. Aren't they the Green Machine?
Let me see. The mean green football.
Mean Green Football.
You almost got me thinking, what, Mean Machine? Is that the longest yard?
Yeah, that's the longest yard. The Mean Machine.
Yeah, it's University of North Texas. I was wondering if they had changed the name over the years. Yeah, it was known as North Texas State University. Like, well, wow, okay. But you get some of these, like Southwest Missouri State is now just Missouri State. They lop off some of the things, and I'll leave it at that. You know what I mean? But yeah,
I'm just wondering. I don't know if that's a Division III school or not. But
that's a good question. Football team. Come on, Wikipedia, Google, do your thing. They compete in the football bowl subdivision of the National Collegiate Athletic Association, the West Division of Conference USA. No, sir. But they might not have always been.
Right.
They might not have always been. They were one FCS, one double A demotion, rebound to FBS. So they bounced around. But still, it's not a university that was known as a powerhouse football program. If you really want to pick out like some nitty gritty things, look at the guys you get from Kent State, or take a look at the one
Jack
Jerry
Lambert.
Rice. Huh?
Yeah, Jack Lambert, John Stallworth. Where'd John Stallworth come from? East, West, North Alabama, some little teeny tiny.
Oh yeah,
Alabama
well yeah.
school.
I think he may have been. Was it one of the historically black colleges that Bill Nunn, famous for getting talent from? But Jerry Rice, Mississippi Valley State. You know what I mean? And there's probably a lot of people that were like, "Why are you taking this guy from this tiny little town with the 16th overall pick in the 1985 draft?" There's stories like that all the time. And it's because talent transcends like the background or that experience in a lot of cases. You've got a whole lot of that with the Steelers. It's not everybody's not from Alabama, Clemson, and Ohio State. Doesn't work that way. Ben came from Miami. Has Miami had players in the NFL since Ben? That'll be something interesting to look up too. I think
so, but
I'm sure they had somebody that was like a late round flyer type prospect on the offensive line this year. I saw Miami, Ohio, by the way, not Miami, Florida. Two different conversations. For a while there, Miami, Florida would have been what we were talking about instead of maybe Ohio State or even Clemson. So back in the 90s, man. Whoo. Anyways, I think it's time to put a bow on this. It's been a while since we got together, so we had a lot to talk about, and there was just a lot with the offensive line. Why didn't they do this? Why did they do this? I think, given the circumstances and everything that's happened, and they still have some salary cap room, and that money can be carried over to next year. There's going to be a huge T.J. Watt contract. Yeah, we understand that, but the Steelers are still going to have. Where's he going? He's not going to go anywhere. He knows where his bread's buttered. He's got to. I don't think that's a concern.
I hope.
Oh, come on, man. The only person who said anything was Mark Madden with his exit interview thing, and he was blowing the smoke on the Kevin Dotson thing. However, all of the Steelers beat writers, including the ones that we conversate with frequently, are just like... Did
you have to bring that name up?
I'm trying to gloss over it real quick so you don't get a word in about him.
Punch that man in the face.
But no, the beat writers are like, we didn't see an out of shape Kevin Dotson or anything like that. So it's like, Mark Madden, who isn't there, is like backing up Dejan's words. And
I'm just going to say one more Mark Madden thing. You ready?
Yes.
Crack is whack, yo.
He's been getting in fights with everybody. I think that's just his thing. Yeah, he just gets in fights with people. But it's like he was the one who talked about T.J. Watt having the bad exit interview or whatever it was. And then Watt already went out and said whatever thing, and it's like that's why you don't always take everyone's word. You take it with like a grain of salt. There's been times where he's been right, and for some reason he gets a scoop that he probably shouldn't. It's because it's usually something that's what do you want to say, like a retaliation or an inflammatory type comment where he could stoke the flames and beat his chest like Tarzan type deal. And when somebody gives them that type of scoop, they're just being vindictive towards somebody else. They have an agenda there. So it's quite unfortunate. But if there's anything we missed, catch us in the comments section. Don't forget about the Chase Claypool camp at chaseclaypool.camp.com. Steel City is the promo code for 10% off of that. If you got some youngsters interested, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this program. We do appreciate all of our listeners, whether you're Steelers fans or not. Brian is looking intently into the camera. I appreciate him being here, so I'm not the only one doing so. Brian, thanks for joining me once again, my friend.
Always a pleasure. I look forward to being told how much of an idiot I am.
At a certain point, I almost thought on the Browns one, I just shut all this stuff off. People were mad because I didn't mention they didn't have their wide receivers against the Jets, as though the team with all of their offensive linemen, Baker Mayfield, and their running backs shouldn't have beat the lowly Jets last year. So the 2%ers, yeah.
We love you 2%ers. We love you.
Yeah, that's a little extra one for the 2%ers that are out there. We love you. That'll put a bow on it for us. Sorry about being late, sporadic, whatever else. We hope to have many more things. We've got football coming, and it's around the corner here. We are into July, and that means camp starting soon, and hoping to get out there at Heinz Field. We'll see what kind of a disaster that's going to be. And still, I didn't see any dates yet for when, if planning to have fans attend, so we'll find out, and we'll see if we can get you a scoop. If not, there's a Hall of Fame game coming up in about a month, of which no one of consequence that we want to see is going to play. I don't even think Najee Harris gets a carry in that game. It's not
on that field.
That's why they signed Josh Dobbs was to play in the Hall of Fame game.
There you go.
So, anyways, my name's Joe. His name's Brian. As always, we encourage everyone out there each and every time to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.